morning. This is a video about basically a fake or knockoff Makita battery charger. It's actually more or less about modifying the charger than it is really about the charger. You can find these on eBay, Amazon, all over the place. They almost look like a Makita charger. They work very much similar to a Makita charger. They will charge 14.4 and 18 volt batteries. They when you put the battery in, it plays a tune, and when the charging is complete, it plays another tune. Some selections from Mozart's Eine Kleine Nachtmusik. When I got this, I noticed that it didn't have a fan in it. Makita ones have a fan that turns on when you start charging, and also that meant that this kind of gets pretty warm, especially right here because there's a large heat sink in this location. So I decided to remedy that, and I took mine apart. Oh, one of the things, I put an on-off switch on it, even though the Makita ones don't have an on-off switch. I decided I wanted one on this one. So you can see here how I put the switch in here. I replaced the crappy cord that was on it with a better cord, and I've also put a polarized cord on it so that I could switch the hot side. And so that's what it is. The hot side comes in, goes to this switch, comes back out and goes into the board. And then what I did was I wired in, this is a small power supply that came with something. It's 5 volts that you plug in the wall, and I took it out of its case, and it is wired. It's soldered to the power connections over here, but the hot side goes through this normally open thermal switch that is set to turn on, I think, when it's about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So when this is on and just sitting here, the fans don't do anything. They're not really needed. But once you put a battery in and it starts to charge, this heat sink here and this one start to generate a bit of heat. This one generates the most heat. So I have mounted the thermal switch. It's just wedged in here between these capacitors and this whatever that component is. I can't read it because this capacitors are in the way. One thing to note is this says on here that you should replace this fuse with a similar rating. I couldn't find a fuse on this thing. I mean, there could be one underneath. I did look underneath, but I didn't see anything that looked like a fuse. So I don't think this thing has a fuse. It's held in place, or was held in place, by this white glue. So I had to carefully pry that away to get this off. And when I routed these wires, I very carefully routed them so they wouldn't get punctured by any components coming through the bottom, and then they're held in place with hot glue. So then the output of this 5 volt power supply goes to these two 5 volt fans, and these were just something I had picked up from a Goodwill. They were in a bag with a bunch of other components. They were just two centrifugal fans, and one of them, apparently there's a spot in here that is designed for a fan. There's actually an opening here, and if you this fan just fits in here perfectly, and then there's a corresponding opening right here, so that when the fan goes off, it'll cool the battery. Although the batteries didn't seem to get particularly warm, which is maybe why they don't have them in here. Then I cut an opening on the side, and I placed a second fan, and I cut a hole, just drilled a big hole and hot glued some wire mesh in there to just keep fingers out of it. I don't know if it's the case, but in this case, but in some cases, these heat sinks can be live, so just keep fingers out of it. So what happens is you put the battery in, it starts to charge. This will start to heat up. You'll actually hear it click. There was a light on this, and so I just drilled a hole and stuck it through the front, so you can actually see that the fan's on. You'll actually hear it click when the fan turns on, and then it'll just start blowing air for the entire time. It does keep it cooler. I noticed that the top of the case doesn't get warm in that area anymore, and then when it's done charging, it continues to blow air until this cools off, and then once it gets below 100 and something like 104 degrees, it shuts off, and so it shuts the fans off, and it works really well. Thanks for watching.